Hey guys, tonight we slip quietly through a medieval alleyway, your boots barely making a sound on the damp cobblestones. You're not exactly dressed for battle, just your wedding gown, slightly muddy, clutched in one hand, while your other hand grips a stolen pastry. Bells are ringing, but not for celebration. Someone's noticed you're missing. You keep moving. Ahead, the docks glow like a portal to another world, and a ship creaks gently against its moorings, like it's been waiting just for you. Behind you is a future filled with laundry, childbirth, and a husband who thinks conversation is optional. Ahead? Salt air, sharks, strange songs, and the chance to become something scandalous. You don't have a plan, but you do have nerve. And as history shows, that's often enough. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you all listen from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You clutch your skirts as you run past the fishmongers, heart pounding. Not from fear, but from the thrill of choosing your own ending. The idea to run didn't come overnight. It had been bubbling for months, maybe years. It started the day you were handed a marriage contract and realized it looked more like a recipe for quiet despair than a love story. Medieval marriage wasn't exactly a rom-com, more like a trade agreement, and usually one negotiated without your input. Sure, women in medieval Europe were told their path was clear: marriage, motherhood, prayer, repeat. But now and then, one of you broke that mold, and not just by becoming a nun. Some disappeared entirely, leaving behind nothing but confusion and rumors. Historians still argue whether these disappearances were isolated acts of rebellion or part of a broader, unspoken tradition among women who just opted out. You, apparently, are opting out. Your fingers brush the small pouch tied under your dress. 2 coins, a tiny knife, and a piece of charcoal for writing messages you'll probably never send. That's your dowry now. Somewhere nearby, a ship is loading crates of smoked fish and salted bread. You know a girl, Magda, who said her cousin once got on a boat dressed as a cabin boy and never came back. That sounds good right now. Never coming back. The scent of tar and tide fills your lungs. You've reached the docks, and even though every sensible voice in your head says this is reckless, something stronger pushes you forward. You pause in the shadows, watching the sailors. They're loud, foul-mouthed, and occasionally limping, but they're free. You envy that. One of them shouts something in Breton and laughs like a man with nothing to lose. You wonder if he'd notice one more deckhand with a questionable mustache. A merchant's wife eyes you with suspicion as she passes, her hair net glinting in the moonlight. You duck into a stack of cargo crates, heart hammering. You know how the story's supposed to go. The runaway bride is caught, dragged back, married anyway. But tonight, you're rewriting that. You tug off your veil and toss it onto the river. It floats for a second, catching the moonlight like a ghost. Then it sinks. The decision is made. Later, historians will debate whether women like you were common or rare. Some will say your story is exaggerated, romanticized. Others will point to records of women pirates, Gran O'Malley, Jean de Clisson, and say, no, she fits the pattern. You're not famous, but you're not alone. There's always been a secret line of women walking sideways out of history's frame. You approach the ship slowly. It smells of fish guts and possibility. A man with a crooked nose eyes you. You there, boy or ghost? Neither, you say, voice deeper than normal. Looking for work. He squints. Got a name? You freeze for a second, then say the first thing that comes to mind. Jack, he grunts. Figures. Get up the ladder, Jack, you can swab. As you grip the rope and climb, you feel your old life slipping like a badly laced corset. You're not Lady Anything anymore. You're Jack. And Jack has a future. You won't be steering the ship yet. You won't be trusted with swords or secrets. But you're in. You've chosen open air over closed doors. It won't be easy. You'll have bruises and blisters, and probably regrets. But not the kind that sit across from you every night at dinner, chewing loudly. Below deck, it smells like seawater and unwashed everything. A rat scurries across your path like a tiny omen. You find a spot near a barrel and curl up, cloak wrapped tight. Your first night as a stowaway is not comfortable, but it's yours. Sleep comes slow, but it comes. You wake to the sound of someone vomiting into a bucket. It's not exactly the songbirds of your childhood garden, but it is honest. The ship rocks steadily beneath you, and with each sway, you wonder if your stomach is about to commit mutiny. You've heard people call the sea romantic, but those people clearly never slept beside a barrel that leaks both brine and regret. Your hands ache from yesterday's climbing, but there's no time to complain. A voice barks orders above deck, and soon a shadowy figure kicks your boot. Up, Jack. You mop, you live. You nod, pulling yourself upright like you've done this 1,000 times. You haven't, but faking it is half the job. Up top, the sunlight blinds you. It glints off ropes, water, and the missing teeth of a man you now know as Gorin. He gives you a mop like he's handing you a sword. You don't ask questions. You just start scrubbing. This is your new life. Salt in your hair, knots in your back, lies in your mouth. As it turns out, pretending to be a boy isn't that hard. You've already spent your life pretending to be things you're not. Obedient, content, feminine in ways that don't threaten. Now, your voice drops an octave, your shoulders square, and no one questions it. You learn fast. Keep quiet, keep busy, and don't get caught staring at shiny things or sighing at sunsets. Historians still argue whether women who disguised themselves at sea were truly accepted or merely tolerated in ignorance. You suspect it's a mix. There's no women's locker room here, just a vague agreement to not look too closely at anyone. Everyone has secrets, and the sea swallows most of them. On deck, you meet Ilsa. She's wiry, wears a bandana that's more whole than fabric, and spits like it's punctuation. She catches you adjusting your mop technique and mutters, "Noble shoulders, you weren't raised for this." You freeze, she knows, but instead of exposing you, she smirks. "Relax, I'm Margot. Don't ask where I'm from. I say I'm from Lisbon, which is a lie. I also say I'm a man. That's another lie. You'll get used to it." You smile, relieved and confused. She spits again and hands you a better mop. Scrub with the grain. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. Later, while coiling ropes with cracked hands, you overhear tales, half brag, half legend, of other women who fled into saltwater obscurity. One story in particular sticks with you. A runaway bride who allegedly joined a pirate crew, married a deckhand in secret, and later saved the ship during a mutiny using only a frying pan. Whether she existed or not is beside the point. The myth gives you comfort. Tonight, your dinner is dried fish and something called hardtack, which tastes like floor tile and regret. Still, you eat it without complaint. Across the table, Margot offers you a pickle. Your jaw still works. Good. Means you haven't cried yet. You laugh softly. Not yet. Over the next few days, your skin burns, your back knots, and you learn to swear with flair. You get blisters in places you didn't know had skin. But there's something oddly satisfying about the honesty of it all. Pain means progress, and every task you complete, hauling ropes, untangling nets, dodging flying boots, reminds you that you're not the same person who fled in silk and shame. You also start picking up snippets of the ship's unspoken code. Always help a man who's dangling. Never wake the captain if it's not life-threatening. And never, under any circumstance, touch anyone's cheese ration. One night, while coiling ropes with Margot under moonlight, she asks you why you ran. You shrug. I was supposed to marry a man who called poetry woman noise. She laughs so hard she drops the coil. You? I was supposed to become a man, she says dryly. In name, profession, future. My father trained me for commerce. I trained myself for disappearing. There's silence, and then a soft murmur from the waves, as if the ocean itself approves. Is this better, you ask? Margot considers it. It's wetter, louder, smellier. But yes, better. You lie awake later, staring at the boards above you, listening to the sea whisper its secrets through the cracks. There's a strange peace in being no one. No titles, no expectations, no mirrors. Still, part of you wonders if they'll ever come looking. Your family, the man you left behind. Maybe they'll say you drowned. Maybe they'll say you eloped. Maybe they won't say anything at all. You smile. That's fine. You have other plans. By the end of the week, you've learned how to dodge flying fish, tie 6 different knots, and pretend that barnacle scrapes on your palms are some kind of elaborate sailor's rite of passage. You've also learned that most pirates don't call themselves pirates. That's more of a landlubber word. Here, you're crew, raider, or simply not the worst one. The sea has stopped being novel and started becoming muscle memory. You now know how to balance your weight during a squall and when to duck to avoid swinging booms. Your voice is raspier, your fingernails are gone, and you've gained a reputation for being quiet but useful. That's pirate praise, in case you're wondering. Still, you're very aware of the thin layer of lie you wear like a disguise. One wrong gesture, one misplaced syllable, and someone might notice your walk, your face, your absence of stubble. Margot teaches you to shave sloppily. Just a little nick on the cheek sells the illusion. The others barely notice. They're too busy shouting, gambling, and arguing over who gets the best hammock spot. One guy insists his spot is luckier because it's near a rat nest, which keeps the spirits away. Historians still argue whether sailors genuinely believed in rat warding, or if that was just one man's excuse for snoring above pestilence. You quickly understand that ships have their own politics. There are quiet alliances, rope favors owed, and invisible territories. You steer clear of most drama, but you listen. And listening brings you closer to something strange. A whisper running through the crew like the creak of boards before a storm. The next destination is Dakar, and there, a deal is going down. You ask Margot about it one night while coiling rope under the stars. She shrugs. Could be a smuggling job. Or a woman. Sometimes it's both. That answer doesn't exactly help your nerves. You've just managed to survive the first week as a fake sailor. Now you're supposed to navigate black market diplomacy? Excellent. But before Dakar, there's prep. That means refitting the ship, restocking the galley, and, for you, your first official job on land, shadowing Smick, the quartermaster. Smick is about as friendly as boiled cloth, but he has a limp and can't carry things alone. Jack, he says, glancing at you sideways, you got skinny arms. Can you lift a barrel? Depends what's in it. He grins. That's the right answer. At the next port, you trudge behind him through narrow alleys lined with vendors selling dried squid, shark teeth, and strange fruit that smells like old soap. A woman yells something in a language you don't know. Smick haggles in 3 tongues and pays in coin, salt, and what appears to be a chicken feather. This, he tells you, pointing at a wrinkled fig the size of your palm, is memory root. Good for fevers, bad for sleep. Don't chew it on night watch unless you want to see things. He pockets it and moves on, leaving you to ponder just how many hallucinations have shaped history's decisions. At one stall, you meet a girl about your age. She eyes you, then lowers her voice. "You're not what you seem." You freeze. But before panic sets in, she winks. "Don't worry, neither am I." She lifts a crate of lemons like it's nothing and disappears into a shaded tent. You never see her again. Back on the ship, you tell Margot about it. She nods. There's more of us than you think. Women who slide sideways into lives that were never written for them. You start to see it more clearly now. The coded glances, the low voices, the spaces women occupy quietly between the pages of official records. It's not always glamorous. Often, it's exhausting. But it's also liberating. Still, the danger is real. One wrong move and you're not just outed. You're overboard. The sea is not sentimental. One night, as you lean over the railing, watching moonlight skip across the waves, you overhear two crewmen talking. They're drunk on grog and confidence. "Think we'll get a look at her?" one says. "The Countess?" the other replies. "I heard she's got red hair and a silver dagger." You narrow your eyes. They're talking about a noblewoman, someone high-born, supposedly turned pirate. Rumors say she runs her own ship, flies no flag, and pays her crew in opals. You don't believe half of it. Still, it sticks with you. Margot joins you. "They're talking about the Red Countess again." You nod. "Think she's real?" She chuckles. "She's real enough. Or she's 10 women stitched into one story. Either way, she gives people hope." You nod, watching the dark water stretch endlessly before you. Hope isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It just needs to last longer than fear. The ship smells like sweat, old rope, and boiling onions. The pirate version of luxury. You've gotten used to it somehow. There's a rhythm to life aboard now, and you fall into it like a dance you didn't know you'd been practicing. Rise at dawn, mend what's broken, eat what's edible, dodge what's flying. But today is different. The captain, a man named Barrick, with a beard like twisted rope and an accent from somewhere too muddy to trace, has called for full crew assembly. That never means anything restful. You gather mid-deck, squinting in the morning light. Barrick looks around with the lazy menace of a man who doesn't need to yell to be feared. "Change of plans," he announces. "Our mark's changed course. We'll catch her off the Florentine coast." A ripple goes through the crew, some grins, some groans. You, of course, have no idea what that means. You lean over to Margot and whisper, "Who's her?" Margot smirks. "A merchant ship, but she's called the Lady Dove, which is funny, considering we're about to rob her blind. This is it. Your first real raid." Your stomach flips like a fish out of water. Sure, you've been on the ship for weeks now, but scrubbing decks and slinging rope is not the same as attacking another vessel mid-sea. There's an awkward, sleep-deprived energy to the prep. Weapons are sharpened, barrels secured, sails trimmed. You are handed a rusty cutlass by a guy who grins like he just gave you a snake. "Don't drop it," he says. "I'll try not to stab myself," you reply, which is both sarcasm and a real concern. You're not expected to lead the charge. Yet. But you are expected to hold your own. The sea may be full of secrets, but battle is where reputations are carved. Historians still argue whether women pirates were tolerated in battle or truly feared. Some claim they fought shoulder to shoulder. Others say they stayed behind and manned the ropes. In truth, like everything at sea, it depended on the ship and the woman. As the Lady Dove grows larger on the horizon, time seems to slow. You hear every creak, every shout. Margot tightens the sash around her waist, rolls her shoulders, and mutters, "Just don't blink." You nod, your fingers slick on the cutlass hilt. When the ships pull alongside each other, it's chaos in stereo. Grappling hooks fly. Ropes hit railings with violent snaps. Men shout in 3 languages. A barrel rolls loose and takes out someone's ankle. You charge because everyone else is charging. You don't remember much clearly, just flashes. A man lunging, the sound of wood splintering, a parrot flying overhead with a scream that sounds exactly like your former mother-in-law. You swing the cutlass once, twice. The second time, you actually hit something, a crate. But it looked like a person, so technically, bravery points. Margot grabs your arm and yanks you forward. You want loot or bruises? Move! You end up in the Lady Dove's hold, face to face with sacks of cinnamon and what appears to be a terrified goat. The goat blinks slowly, as if to say, "You're doing amazing, sweetie." You grab a sack and stagger back to your ship, breath burning, heart pounding like it's trying to desert. By the time you clamber aboard again, the fight is nearly over. The crew is whooping, someone's singing, someone else is bleeding but laughing about it. And just like that, it's done. Your first raid wasn't heroic. You didn't leap across rigging or duel on the mast. But you weren't deadweight either. You showed up. You survived. That night, there's grog. Goran plays a sea shanty on something that might be a flute. Barrick grunts at you. You kept your boots on. That's more than the last newbie. You blink. Thanks. Margot hands you a chipped cup. To firsts, she says. You clink and drink. It tastes like mold and confidence. Later, sitting on a coil of rope and watching the stars spin slowly, you think about what might have been. A marriage, a stone house, a spinning wheel, maybe a child or two. Safe, sure. But this? This is real. You flex your fingers. They hurt. But they're yours. And the goat? Still staring at you from the corner of the deck. Margot joins you. We keeping it? I don't know, you say. He's got judgmental eyes. Fits in perfectly, she says. You both laugh until your ribs ache. The sea is still for now. The sails flap softly, like curtains in an open window. And you lie back on the deck, one hand resting on the hilt of your rusted cutlass, knowing for certain you'll never go back. Not for a husband, not for anyone. Morning drips in slowly, pink and gold, over a sea so calm it looks painted. The crew stirs with the sluggishness of people who drank too much grog and earned it. You, however, wake early. Not because you're eager to scrub barnacles or chase runaway livestock, though the goat has developed a fondness for standing in doorways, but because something shifted last night. You're not just hiding anymore. You're becoming. You rise, stretch sore limbs, and steal a moment of solitude at the bow. The breeze tastes like salt and cloves, some lingering scent from the stolen cinnamon stash. The ship moves gently, a sleeping giant, and for the first time since fleeing your wedding veil, you feel grounded, even while adrift. Look at you, Margot says behind you. Getting all poetic at sunrise? You smirk. Just waiting to see if the goat tries to climb the rigging again. He's plotting something, she mutters. I can smell it. You both fall quiet for a while. The sea has that effect. Moments of stillness so pure, they hush the loudest minds. Then, so, what'll you do when this ends? She asks. You blink. Ends? You think we'll be doing this forever? She grins. One day, we're either rich, dead, or dumped on a sandbar with half a biscuit and a questionable tattoo. You laugh, but the question lingers. What does come after? Historians still debate the fates of women pirates. Some vanished completely from records, their aliases successful to the end. Others were caught and hanged, usually while wearing men's boots. A few reappeared decades later, married or respectable, with their pasts locked in sea chests or disguised as youthful misadventures. But for now, this life still stretches ahead, day by strange day. The crew begins prepping for landfall, repairs, trading, and a few planned visits to recreational establishments. You're not assigned shore duty this time. Instead, you and Margot are tasked with inventory, an unglamorous job that involves counting crates, sniffing barrels, and playing a game you invent called Guess That Smell. Spoiler, it's usually onions. Among the loot, is a curious little box with a silver clasp. Inside, a velvet pouch, and oddly, a miniature carved mermaid. Margot lifts it carefully. Someone's love token, she muses, or a very specific voodoo doll. You gently take it, running your thumb over the smoothed wood. It's beautiful in that way lost things often are. You slip it into a hidden pouch, not for profit, just because. Meanwhile, news spreads through the ship faster than grog spills. There's going to be new crew. Recruits meeting the ship at the next port. Always risky. Could be useful hands. Could be spies. Could be your cousin's idiot husband trying to rescue you for the family honor. You try not to think about that possibility. But Margot sees the flicker in your face. Worried? You nod. She shrugs. If they show, we'll deal with it. You're not who you were. You're Jack now. Jack is irritatingly competent and weirdly good at stacking dried fish. You roll your eyes, but it helps. When the new recruits arrive, you're on rigging duty, high above, which means you can observe without being observed. 2 look like actual sailors. 1 is clearly a noble's son slumming it for reasons that probably involve dueling or heartbreak. And 1, you pause. She's short, dark-eyed, dressed like she borrowed clothes from 5 different people. Her eyes scan the deck like she's mapping exits. And when the others introduce themselves, she says nothing, just nods and edges away. You feel a jolt of recognition, not of her, but of her story. Another runner. Another woman with a plan that starts with pretending not to exist. Later, you find her alone near the water barrels. She's scrubbing a rusted pan and mumbling something that sounds like poetry. You step closer. Nice to have another quiet one. She looks up sharply. What? You lower your voice. Don't worry, your secret's safe. There's a beat of silence. Then she narrows her eyes. What gave me away? You grin. You didn't flinch when a rat ran across your boots. Only women in uncomfortable shoes flinch at that. She laughs, surprised. I'm called Fina. Jack, you reply. She nods. I'll remember that. It's not a handshake. It's not an oath. But it's enough. Margot watches you both from a distance, arms crossed, expression unreadable. That night, as the ship drifts under a sheet of stars, you sit with Margot and Fina near the goat, who has claimed a corner of the deck as his throne. The 3 of you talk softly, about storms, old lives, strange dreams, about nothing and everything. You realize something then. You fled alone, but you're no longer on your own. This isn't just a ship. It's a strange, floating rebellion. You're not the only one who jumped the rails of expectation. And if the world ever asks what happened to Lady Whoever of somewhere important, you'll just smile and say, she's at sea, still writing her own ending. The days stretch long and salty, sunlit routines blurring into one another like brushstrokes in an old watercolor. You now tie knots without thinking, climb rigging without fearing, and sleep without checking over your shoulder every 5 minutes. That last part took effort. Being hunted by social expectations really sticks in the muscles. You've become Jack in every sense that matters, and people treat you as such. Even Goran, who still calls you Twiglegs, now trusts you enough to let you stir the cooking pot, though that might say more about his taste buds than your skills. This morning, Margot and Fina are sparring with broom handles on the main deck. It's less training and more graceful chaos. Fina is quicker, but Margot is sneakier. You sit cross-legged nearby, polishing a compass that's missing its needle. You fight like a cat in a wind tunnel, Margot says mid-lunge. At least I don't fight like a drowned parrot, Fina shoots back, breathless. They laugh, bruised and grinning. You smile, too. The sea has changed you all, made your edges sharper, your skin tougher, your joy quieter and more earned. Still, there's something else brewing beneath the banter. You feel it in the sudden silences between sentences, the way Margot sometimes stares at the horizon, with her mouth tight and her fingers twitching. You don't ask. Yet. Then, one morning, Barrick calls Margot into his cabin. Not unusual. She's been sailing longer than anyone besides him. But this time, she comes out looking like she bit into something sour and swallowed it out of spite. You wait until nightfall to press. The stars are out, the goat is asleep, finally, and the deck is mostly quiet. "What happened?" you ask softly. Margot doesn't answer at first. She's rubbing a small coin between her fingers, the edges worn smooth. "We're picking up passengers," she says finally. "High-paying ones. Nobles fleeing something or other. Temporarily." Your blood stills. Temporarily? They'll be on board for 3 days. Sailing north. Captain says it's easy coin. You frown. "And we're, what, glorified taxis now?" She chuckles without humor. "We're whatever pays for repairs. But you both know the risk. Nobles mean questions, recognition. Servants who might whisper, guards who might recognize you, or worse, him." "I doubt he'd be among them," Margot says, reading your thoughts like a map. "But be careful anyway. Rich folk have long memories and nosy butlers." The next day, the passengers arrive by dinghy. 4 men, 2 women, and a child, all dressed in traveling clothes that scream, "undercover," in the loudest way possible. They walk the deck like it's made of mold and mystery. You keep your head down and your hair tucked. They're polite mostly, distant. One man asks if anyone on board speaks Latin. No one replies. You suspect at least 3 do. The child, a boy with big eyes and a habit of staring, watches you often. He never speaks, just tugs on his mother's sleeve and points when he thinks you aren't looking. His mother shushes him with a firmness that speaks of secrets. Historians still argue whether noble passengers on pirate ships were hostages, partners, or something murkier. Some captains claim to offer safe passage for a fee. Others turned mid-voyage and ransomed them back. You hope Barrick sticks to the merchant script this time. On the second night, Fina corners you. "One of the women," she says, "asked about you." Your chest tightens. "What did she say?" "She asked where you were from. I said you were mute." You blink. "Mute?" Fina shrugs. "She apologized and walked off, but she's watching." The tension spreads like a slow tide. You start working odd hours, keeping to shadows. You even go so far as to borrow Goran's hat, a hideous, droopy thing that smells like fish and lost ambition. It helps. Slightly. Then, on the 3rd morning, the boy finds you near the galley. He says nothing, just hands you something small, a handkerchief, embroidered, with your family crest. Time slows. You crouch, eye level with him, and whisper, "Where did you get this?" He shrugs and points at his mother. You look over. She's speaking with Barrick, her face calm, unreadable. You feel Fina appear beside you, as if summoned by panic alone. "What do we do?" you whisper. Fina frowns. If she recognizes you, she hasn't said it. Yet, Margot joins you with a quiet curse. "We can't dump passengers overboard anymore, remember." You stare at the handkerchief. Your name, your real name, is stitched right under a stag's head. A name you haven't spoken in weeks. A name you buried in salt water. "I'll talk to her," you say. Margot grabs your wrist. "Are you mad?" "Maybe, but if she knows, I need to know what she wants." Later, you find the woman near the stern. She's watching the horizon, not you. "Your son gave me this," you say, holding the handkerchief. She doesn't look surprised. "I thought it was you," she murmurs. "I wasn't sure until now." You wait. "I knew your mother," she says. Briefly. At court. You look nothing like her, but you walk like her. Always too fast. "What do you want?" you ask. She glances at you. "Nothing. I left that world too. I just didn't do it as dramatically." You squint. "Why say nothing?" She smiles. "Because you looked free." That word hits you harder than a wave. "I'll keep your secret," she adds. "But take the cloth. Your old name deserves to vanish cleanly." You nod. Slowly. The handkerchief feels heavier now. That night, You burn it over a lantern. Just ash, just thread. But it feels like slicing off a ghost's tether. You are Jack. Nothing more. Nothing less. The noble passengers disembark just before sunrise, leaving behind the faint scent of perfume and paranoia. You watch from the rigging, hidden behind sails, until their little skiff vanishes into the horizon, like a bad dream finally swallowed by morning. You don't feel triumphant. You feel cleaner, like part of your old self was rinsed away with that burned handkerchief. Your real name, your family crest, gone now. For good. The sea didn't just give you a new life. It took the old one and scattered it to the tide. "Let me guess," Margot says as she climbs up beside you, wiping her brow. "You didn't die of noble awkwardness after all." You grin. "Close call. Her perfume almost did me in." Below, the crew is busy. Barrick shouts orders. Goran wrestles the goat again. Fina is mending netting with a concentration that makes you suspect she's actually thinking about something entirely different. Probably dagger techniques or poetry. There's work to do, but the tension has lifted, and with it comes a strange lightness. The sea is calm, and spirits are high enough that someone tries to start a shanty with only 3 verses and the wrong key. You join in anyway. That afternoon, while taking a break from gutting dried fish, you've gotten disturbingly good at it. Fina pulls you aside. "You ever get tattooed?" she asks casually. You blink. "Is that a warning or an offer?" "Offer," she replies. "Margot has the gear. She used to be a scribe, then a forger, then, well, this." Later, you sit below deck, shirt off, back arched, while Margot leans over you with inky fingers and a steady hand. The design isn't fancy, just a small compass rose hidden behind your shoulder. But it means something. A reminder that you choose your direction now. "Most people ink anchors or mermaids," Margot murmurs as she works. "You picked a tool." "Figured I already am the shipwreck," you say. She snorts. Historians still argue whether female pirates tattooed themselves as freely as their male crewmates. Few records mention it directly, perhaps because no one thought it worth noting, or perhaps because they simply didn't ask. But artifacts found in old sea chests occasionally show stylized initials, symbols, or compass marks that may have belonged to women whose names were erased. You wince as Margot wipes the fresh ink clean. "There," she says. "Now you're officially illegible." You grin. "Perfect." Over the next few days, the crew sails toward the Canary Islands. Talk of repairs, new trade routes, and, as always, rumors. The most popular is that the Red Countess, the mysterious noble-turned-raider, has taken a royal vessel and vanished into the Azores. Fina brings this up one night while you're sharpening knives together. "Do you think she's real?" she asks. "She might be," you say, "or she might be 10 women in one story." "Is that a bad thing?" "No," you reply. "It's just comforting." Margot joins you, sitting cross-legged with a bruised peach in her hand. "I once heard she stabbed a prince with a spoon," she offers. Fina raises an eyebrow. "Did he deserve it?" "Oh, definitely." The 3 of you sit in companionable silence for a while. Then Margot says, "Let's write her a letter." You blink. "What?" "You know, just for fun, like a message in a bottle, a fan letter." Fina nods. "Why not?" You retrieve a bit of old parchment. Together, you scribble a ridiculous note full of compliments, fake confessions, and requests for eyeliner tips. You sign it, "The Unladylike League," roll it tight, and drop it overboard in a glass jar sealed with wax. A gull watches you like it's judging your handwriting. That night, you dream of a woman in a red coat sailing under moonlight, smiling at a message in a bottle that tells her she's not alone. The next morning, a storm hits. Not a massive one, not yet, but strong enough to turn the sea dark and the crew foul-tempered. You work fast, double-knotting sails, checking for leaks, shouting to be heard. At one point, Fina slips. You catch her wrist just in time, hauling her back with a strength you didn't know you had. "Thanks," she gasps. You nod. "That's twice now. I'll start keeping score." The rain pours for 2 days. The deck becomes a battlefield of water, ropes and sliding barrels. You sleep in wet clothes, eat cold beans, and mutter curses even Goran wouldn't dare say. But eventually, like all things, the storm passes. Afterward, the sea lies still, as if exhausted by its own tantrum. The crew slowly dries out. Goran tries to make a stew that might actually be edible. Someone plays a sad, wobbly tune on a broken fiddle. The goat headbutts a crate and wins. And you sit at the edge of the deck, compass rose stinging slightly under salt-crusted cloth, watching the sky lighten and wondering what story you'll become next. After the storm, everything tastes like rust, even the bread. The sails flap lazily above as if sighing in relief, and the rigging creaks like a ship that's just rolled over in bed and decided it's not getting up yet. You and the rest of the crew are in recovery mode, sunburned, sore, and smelling like things best not named. The wind's changed. That's the first thing you notice. Not in direction, but in mood. It's warmer now, scented with driftwood and something floral. The second thing you notice is the tattoos. Not your own, though yours still stings a little under the shirt, but the ones other crew members carry. You're finally looking. There's the usual. Daggers, anchors, sharks, names long scratched out. But there are also stranger ones. A cat's eye on a heel. A map with no labels. One woman has an eel coiled around her forearm with tiny teeth inked in shimmering silver. You spot Fina tracing a small, faded flower on her ankle. "Camellia," she says, catching your glance. "They grew outside my window." "Do you miss it?" you ask. She shrugs. "I miss who I could have been there. Not the place. That hits home. You feel your tattoo itch with unspoken truths." Historians still argue whether tattoos served practical or symbolic purposes on pirate ships. Marks of allegiance, protection charms, or just personal rebellion. Some even say certain tattoos were used to mark secret pacts or to communicate between female pirates without revealing their identities. You ask Margot about it one lazy afternoon, while she's mending a sail with thread that looks suspiciously stolen. "Symbols," she replies without looking up. "Some of us hide, others declare." "And the eel?" She says it keeps her safe from drowning. Hasn't failed her yet. You nod. You're starting to understand. The body becomes the archive. The life you chose gets written on your skin in ways inkless history books never recorded. Later that night, Barrick calls a quiet meeting below deck. "That's never good." "We've got an issue," he growls, scratching at a scab on his forehead like it personally offended him. "Our next job's more complicated." You don't like complicated. Complicated gets people wet, wounded, or worse. "Old contact says there's treasure," Barrick continues. "Island off the Moroccan coast. But it's cursed, or so they say." Everyone groans. "Of course it's cursed," Margot mutters. "It's always cursed." Fina raises a hand. "How cursed?" Barrick shrugs. "Ghosts, voices, disappearances, you know. Minor stuff." You try to keep a straight face. "So, definitely cursed. The vote is quick. The crew's poor and bored. Of course you're going." The next few days are filled with superstition. Garlic cloves nailed to masts. Salt tossed over shoulders. Goran sleeps with a potato under his hammock for spirits. Someone ties fish bones to the goat's collar, turning him into the angriest little exorcist afloat. Margot finds this hilarious. "You superstitious?" she asks you as you rub oil into a cracked pulley. "I ran away from a husband to join criminals with tattoos," you reply. "I think I'm open-minded." You reach the island at dawn. It rises out of the mist like something drawn by a bored monk. Jagged cliffs, crumbling towers, and too many birds circling in slow, silent spirals. The crew grows quiet. Even the goat stops bleeding. "You sure it's the right place?" Fina asks. "Has the right number of ominous birds," you reply. You row in with a small team, Barrick, Margot, Fina, and you. The others stay aboard in case of emergencies. Also because nobody really wants to touch the cursed sand. You step ashore with a crunch. The air smells old. The kind of old that clings to crypts and forgotten libraries. You grip your cutlass tighter. Inside the ruins, the silence is worse than sound. Dust swirls through beams of light like ghost confetti. You hear dripping. You hear wind. And once, a soft chime that no one can trace. "This is fine," Margot whispers. "This is all very normal." You find nothing valuable, just broken jars, a rusted anchor, and some cracked tiles depicting a woman holding a sword and a bird. The colors have faded, but the expression on her face is strangely modern, wry, like she's in on the joke. Fina stares at it for a long time. "I know that look." "Me too," you whisper. "That's the 'don't ask me to go back' look." You all nod. Back on the boat, the mood is lighter. The cursed island gave you nothing but eerie ambiance and a few bruises. And somehow, that was enough. Later, over salted fish and strong tea, the crew speculates wildly. It was haunted by nuns. Witches, definitely witches. Maybe it was a secret pirate court. You and Margot exchange glances. "Could have been all three," you say. Someone starts sketching the mural woman in charcoal on a sail fragment. It spreads fast. She becomes a new kind of mascot. The woman with the sword and the bird. You hang it near your bunk, just in case she is real and wants to keep an eye on you. You lie awake that night listening to the boat sway. Fina hums a lullaby in a language you don't know. Margot mutters in her sleep about goats and misfiled taxes. You smile and let the sea rock you gently. You're not haunted. You're home. You wake to the sound of arguing. Not unusual. What is unusual is that it's not about food, chores, or who forgot to tie down the chicken crate again. No, this time it's about you. "I'm telling you," a voice growls. "Jack's hiding something." You freeze in your hammock. That voice belongs to a sailor named Deke, a man who always seems a little too alert, a little too bored, and very, very dangerous when either condition stretches too long. Margot is already there, crouched by your side like a silent cat with a knife. She whispers, "Stay still. Let me handle this." You hear footsteps, heavy and slow. "Jack's too clean," Deke mutters. "Too quiet. Doesn't drink, doesn't spit, doesn't stink like the rest of us." "Maybe Jack just has standards," Margot replies coolly. "You should try it sometime." There's a pause. "Or maybe Jack's a spy." That lands hard. Margot doesn't miss a beat. "A spy for who? The Ministry of Smelling Better Than You?" The crew laughs, but Deke isn't done. "I'm watching." You stay frozen, breathing shallow, while Margot sits beside you as a physical shield. Historians still argue whether crews truly accepted women among them, or simply looked the other way. There are recorded instances of female pirates leading men, commanding raids, even owning ships, but always under threat of exposure. The moment they were found out, everything shifted. Reverence turned to risk. Power dissolved into paranoia. You don't speak for hours, not out of fear, okay, a little out of fear, but mostly because you need to think. At midday, Barrick calls for a sailing break. The crew lounges on deck, airing out boots, sharpening blades, eating with their hands. You and Margot take your lunch up to the crow's nest, an unspoken signal to avoid small talk. Fina climbs up after you 10 minutes later, tossing you a strip of salted mango. "I heard," she says. You nod. "Should I be worried?" "Not yet," she says. "He's more bark than brains. Still, bark carries." You look out at the endless horizon, the curve of the world dipping into secrecy. "I'm not going back," you murmur. Fina hands you a ribbon, thin, blue, and slightly frayed. "Then wear this under your shirt. Means you're claimed." Might throw off suspicion. Claimed by who? Me, or Margot, or the sea. Doesn't matter. Just muddies the water. You tie it around your wrist instead. The wind picks up later that afternoon, and with it, new sails. You spot them first, dark, patched, listing slightly. Another ship flying no flag. Barrick curses. Could be smugglers, could be trouble, could be both, you think. He signals the crew into alert mode. Not quite battle stations, but the careful tension that says, we don't blink first. As the ship draws nearer, the atmosphere curdles. This isn't a friendly pass. The way they angle toward you is deliberate, predatory. You grip your cutlass tighter. Not again, you mutter, remembering your first raid and the taste of panic. Only this time, there's no cargo hold to hide in, no goat to distract people. They hail you. A voice calls out across the water. Permission to parley. Barrick grunts. That's either very good or very bad. You watch from behind the mast as a small crew rows over. Their leader is tall, sunburned, and wearing earrings in both ears, which is either deeply stylish or deeply unstable. Behind them, a smaller figure keeps their hood low. They step aboard. The hooded figure scans the deck, then stops on you. Something flickers beneath the shadow of their cloak. Recognition? Alarm? You can't tell. But your gut twists. They step forward. "You're Jack?" the figure asks. You nod slowly. They pull back their hood. It's a woman. Mid-30s, sun-darkened, eyes sharp as flint. A long scar down one cheek and around her neck. A thin chain with a compass charm exactly like yours. She smirks. "Heard you're the quiet one." You open your mouth, then close it again. She glances at Margot, then Foina. "Smart crew." "All right. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to offer let's call it an exchange." The captain steps in. "Go on." She holds up a scroll. Sealed in wax, branded with a crude sigil. A bird with a sword. You blink. That mural, that woman, her. "You're the Countess," you whisper. She grins wider. "In the flesh." She unrolls the scroll. There's a gathering. Pirate Cove, off the Azores. Quiet folk. Old hands. Mostly women. Some men who don't ask questions. We share maps, trade, lie about the weather. "You interested?" Barrick eyes her warily. "What's the catch?" "No catch," she says. "Just quiet and safety. But only if you're not bringing baggage. I heard one of you might be dragging a noble name like an anchor." Your mouth goes dry. She doesn't look at you when she says it. But she doesn't need to. Margot steps forward. "We're clean." The Countess nods. "Then maybe I'll see you there." And just like that, she turns. Her boat rows back. Her ship sails away. You stand in silence long after. "She knew," Foina whispers. "She knew what you were." Margot smiles faintly. "And she still offered you a map." You watch the last flutter of her sail disappear. Maybe ghosts don't always want to haunt you. Maybe sometimes they come offering invitations instead. The sea is restless that night. Not stormy, but fidgety. Like it knows something's coming and doesn't want to be the one to say it out loud. Waves slap the hull with a rhythm that never quite settles, and every rope creaks just a little offbeat. Sleep doesn't come easily, not for anyone. You lie awake in your hammock, eyes fixed on the rafters, replaying the Countess's words in your mind. Pirate Cove, quiet folk, maps. It all sounds almost cozy. Suspiciously so. Like a trap made of hammocks and rum and hypothetical safety. You wonder if it's real. You wonder if she's real. And you wonder, deep in that place that still half remembers lace gloves and tight shoes, if it's a test. "Still awake?" Margot's voice drifts over from the next hammock. You nod. Then remember she can't see you. "Yeah." She swings her legs down. "Come on. Night air's better than haunted hammocks." You follow her up to the deck. Fina's already there, wrapped in a blanket and sipping something hot from a dented tin mug. "The ocean feels weird," Fina mutters, without looking at either of you. Like it's remembering something it doesn't want to. Margot nods. Or maybe it's just that stew Goran made. You smirk, then fall quiet. The moon casts silver paths across the waves, and for a moment, the three of you sit without words. Just women who shouldn't be here, who were never supposed to be here, soaking up moonlight on a ship that doesn't care who you used to be. Eventually you speak. If we went to the cove, would we stay? Fina shrugs. Depends what it is. Could be paradise, could be a con, could be both, Margot adds. Most things worth chasing are. You nod slowly. You've been chasing a lot lately. Freedom, safety, silence, something like belonging. A cove where no one asks questions sounds like the kind of fairy tale you'd normally laugh at. But now it sounds like hope in disguise. Historians still debate whether places like this actually existed. Hidden pirate havens run by exiled nobles, freed slaves, escaped wives, and seafaring misfits. Some say they were myths. Others claim to have seen fragments. Coded maps, letters from Lady R, even bones buried with compasses etched into their ribs. Your captain is skeptical, of course. The next morning, Barrick calls a meeting. I don't like ghost stories, he grumbles, or invitations from women who smile too much, but we could use new maps. The vote is nearly unanimous. Even Deke agrees, though you notice he doesn't make eye contact with you anymore. We'll head toward the Azores, Barrick declares. But the second something smells fishier than usual, we turn tail. Define fishier than usual, someone calls out. He ignores it. Preparations begin. The ship creaks back to life, sails trimmed, rations counted, arguments about rope knots resumed with fresh enthusiasm. You're assigned to galley duty, which is ironic considering your cooking skills range from burned to disintegrated. But today, Margot is supervising. You boil water like a fugitive, she says, staring at your bubbling pot, uncertain and slightly terrified. I am a fugitive, you point out. Still, she replies, be more confident. The onions can smell fear. Fina walks in holding a wrapped bundle. Found something weird in the hold, she says, unwrapping layers of cloth to reveal a small, polished box. Dark wood, inlaid with mother of pearl. Margot raises an eyebrow. That wasn't on the manifest. You open it slowly. Inside, a ring. Gold. Elegant. Very old. Carved into the band is a tiny symbol. A compass rose. Your breath catches. Could be a coincidence, Margot says. It never is, Fina murmurs. That night, you wear the ring on a cord around your neck. Not because it belongs to you, but because it feels like it knows you. The wind shifts again 2 days later, carrying with it the first sight of volcanic peaks. Black cliffs rising out of mist, like something ancient returning from a long nap. You've reached the outer edges of the Azores. The crew hushes. Even Goran stops humming. You all stare at the land as if waiting for it to blink. Barrick squints through a spyglass. No signal yet. You know what he's looking for. A sign. A beacon. The Countess said quiet folk. You imagine they won't be waving flags. Then, just before dusk, someone shouts. Lanterns, 3 of them, patterned. You climb the rigging to see for yourself. 3 soft yellow lights blinking from a cliffside. Short. Long. Long. Then a pause. Then again. Margot gasps. That's an old signal. Pre-code. Almost no one uses it anymore. Fina smiles faintly. Means peace among ships. Barrick exhales. Well, I'll be. The lanterns blink again. And again. Then the clouds shift, and you see it. Tucked between cliffs, almost hidden from view, is a narrow inlet. Calm water. Smoke rising from somewhere deep inside. A small boat appears at the mouth of the cove, gliding silently toward you. No flag, no weapons, just a single rower, cloaked in dark cloth. They don't shout. They just raise a hand in greeting. The crew is frozen. Do we answer? Someone whispers. Barrick looks at you. Odd. He hasn't looked at you like that before. Well, he says, what's your compass say? You don't answer. You step to the edge of the ship, hand tightening on the cord around your neck. You raise your hand and wave. The small boat pulls up alongside your ship like a ghost with a schedule. No one moves. Even the goat has stopped chewing its usual crate corner snack to watch. The rower stands, pulls back their hood, and reveals a woman. Older, sun-marked, hair silver at the edges and tied back with twine. She doesn't speak at first, just looks around the deck with the weariness of someone who's seen too many waves, too many lies. Then she smiles, small but real. "You're expected," she says simply. Margot snorts. That's never a comforting thing to hear. The woman gestures to the inlet. "We'll guide you in. The current's tricky." Barrick hesitates. "We don't do surprises." She nods. "Neither do we." That seals it. Ropes creak, sails adjust, and your ship slides behind the guideboat like a nervous guest arriving late to a mysterious dinner. You pass between high cliffs that seem to close behind you, shadow falling across the deck like a drawn curtain. It feels like entering another world, one you're not quite sure you were invited to, but can't stop walking into. Then, all at once, the inlet opens. The cove is small, hidden between the black cliffs and overgrown rock ledges, but it's very real. Lanterns line a narrow dock. 3 other ships float silently nearby, sails furled and names scraped off their hulls. People move across the deck of one, women mostly, a few men, all with a similar quietness. No yelling, no clanging, just practiced efficiency. It's not piratey in the way you expect it. There are no skeleton flags or piles of gold. Instead, there's a stillness here. Purposeful, deliberate. Your ship docks. The woman, who later introduces herself as Marin, helps you all disembark. "Captain Barrick," she says with a nod. "You're welcome to stay 3 nights. No weapons inside the ring. No shouting. No lies." "What's the ring?" you ask. She points. A series of small stone markers circle the cove's edge, worn with age, each carved with a different symbol. A bird, a hand, a spiral, a wave. "It's our ground," she says. "We keep peace here, speak freely, but truthfully." You raise an eyebrow. "And if someone lies?" She shrugs. "They tend not to return." You catch Barrick looking at you again. Not suspicious now, curious. You all split up to explore. The cove has strange magic. Not the wand-waving kind, but the kind born of shared secrets and silent agreements. There's a small forge, a garden full of tangled herbs, and a stone circle where people read old letters aloud in soft voices. You walk past one woman reading a note in French, her voice shaking. No one interrupts her. No one questions why she's reading something from a decade ago. Fina finds a map exchange, a wall covered in layered charts, old and new, annotated with smudged handwriting. "Look at this," she whispers, tracing a line with her finger. "This is the route my grandmother used. I thought it was lost." Margot finds the ink shop. Of course she does. You watch her negotiate with an elderly woman over the last bottle of violet pigment like it's priceless treasure. And you? You find the shrine. It's tucked into the cliffside. Just a small alcove with carved symbols, bits of thread, tokens, and offerings. One of them is a weathered boot. Another is a seashell, painted with a woman's name. Isolde. You add something. A scrap of sailcloth, stitched with a compass. You don't say anything. You just leave it, like so many others have. Historians don't write about places like this. There's no record of secret pirate sanctuaries or floating sisterhoods. And yet, here it is. Proof that stories passed in whispers might sometimes be true. Back at the ship, Barrick calls a meeting. "We leave in 3 days," he says, "and we'll leave with better charts and some strong friends if we're smart." The crew nods, murmuring agreement. Later that night, you're sitting by the shore when Marin finds you again. "You're not what you pretend to be," she says, matter of fact. You freeze. "But," she continues, "you never broke the ring's rules. You haven't lied since stepping on land, so you're welcome here." You exhale slowly. "What is this place, really?" She smiles. It's where the sea keeps its secrets. You turn back toward the dock. There's a woman fixing a sail by lantern light, a girl carving something into driftwood, and a man humming a lullaby in a language you can't place. No one's running, but no one's chasing either. Marin stands. We'll have a gathering tomorrow night. Food, music, maybe stories. Come if you want. You nod, watching her walk away. Behind you, Margot appears, flops down beside you with a sigh, and pulls a stolen orange from her pocket. Well, she says, peeling it carefully, this is either a trap, or the most restful place we'll never admit exists. Or both, you murmur. She hands you half the orange. Weird thing is, she says between bites, I think I believe in it. You eat in silence, legs dangling over the rocks, watching the tide curl in and out, and for the first time in a long while, you don't feel like you have to keep moving. The next evening arrives slow and honey-colored. The cove is bathed in a kind of light that makes you think maybe the sun knows this is a rare place, and it's trying to linger just a bit longer before giving in to the dark. Lanterns flicker to life along the dock, strung between driftwood poles and old masts, repurposed as totems. Someone's lit a fire pit near the beach. There's music already. Soft strings and a low drum beat that sounds like waves translated into rhythm. You and the others walk up from the ship, blinking like people waking from a long nap. Fina's in a clean tunic you've never seen before. Margot's brushed her hair. Even the goat has been mysteriously brushed and tied with a ribbon, though no one will admit who did it. All right, Barrick mutters, eyeing the spread of food and music. This feels suspiciously like hospitality. You grin. You afraid of snacks now, Captain? He grunts and disappears toward the fermented coconut table. The gathering is informal, but there's an energy to it. Women and men from different ships mix easily. You hear at least 6 languages. One woman greets you in accented English, then switches to Portuguese, then French, then something you think might be Basque. This place is older than any map, she says between bites of lemon cake. Don't let the fresh paint fool you. You drift through the crowd, each corner revealing something stranger or sweeter than the last. A man sings a lullaby to a fox. Someone else offers tarot readings with cards drawn on old linen. One woman tattoos seashells with names and leaves them on a ledge for those who might come back as fish. Anyone ever found one of these, you ask? She shrugs. If they have, they haven't said. Historians still argue whether these types of gatherings ever took place. Some dismiss them as sailor folklore, too egalitarian, too peaceful, too female. But oral histories suggest otherwise. Quiet coves, moonlit feasts, coded rituals of inclusion. A place to be known but not exposed. The Countess arrives late. She doesn't announce herself. She just appears, as if the shadows decided to congeal into a woman with steel eyes and a wine-red sash. She greets Marin with a nod, then begins to make her way through the crowd, pausing at certain faces, clapping certain shoulders. Eventually, she reaches you. Jack, she says with a grin. You nod. Countess, she chuckles. Not my name, but I suppose it's more polite than you there with the murderous smile. I haven't murdered anyone, you say. Yet. She steps closer, lowering her voice. So, you stayed. You nod. For now. She glances at the crowd. It's always for now, but it counts. You hesitate, then ask, how do you know when you're safe? The Countess tilts her head. You don't. But you get used to not caring as much. That lands harder than you expect. Margot appears beside you, holding 3 cups of something cloudy and probably dangerous. We're doing this then? She asks. The Countess raises her cup, to the ones who stayed, and the ones who chose. Fina clinks hers against yours. And to the ones we used to be. You drink. It tastes like regret and citrus, which feels correct. Later, after the lanterns dim and the songs slow down, people begin telling stories. No one stands or makes announcements. They just start speaking. one by one, when the moment feels right. A woman with salt gray hair tells of stealing a Dutch warship by accident. A quiet man recounts the time he disguised himself as a ghost to escape a bounty. Someone tells a love story about a captain who married the sea. Everyone claps. And then Maren gestures to you. You freeze. But then you hear Margot whisper, "No lies in the ring." So you speak. You tell them about the wedding you didn't attend, the ring you never wore, the veil you let float down river. You tell them about the first time you held a cutlass and nearly stabbed a pickle barrel. You tell them about Margot and Fina and the goat who thinks he's royalty. You leave out the names, but you don't leave out the truth. When you finish, no one claps, but they nod. A few smile, and someone says, "She did the right thing." Later, walking back to the ship under a sky heavy with stars, Margot loops her arm through yours. "You know you could stay here, right?" she says. "I thought we were staying," you reply. "No, I mean really stay. Join this cove. Let the rest of the world go. Cut the rope completely." You pause. It's tempting. It's quiet. It's safe. But is it you? "I don't know yet," you say honestly. Margot squeezes your arm. "That's all right. Knowing you can is enough." Fina catches up, walking backwards, arms wide. "Tell me you've ever seen stars like this." You look up. No, you haven't. The three of you walk in silence, the path lit by lanterns and moonlight. Behind you, the party drifts into lullabies. Ahead, your ship waits. You haven't made a decision, but for the first time, you don't feel like running. You leave the cove at sunrise, not because you're forced to, not because of any danger, but because, as the Countess put it, safe harbors are for resting, not for rusting. So you sail. The water's glassy, pink from the sun's reflection, and your ship cuts through it like a letter opener through silk. No one speaks much that morning. Even Goran hums softly instead of singing his usual off-key sea shanty about goats and jellyfish. The cove already feels like a dream folded back into the sea. But the map you took with you, that's real. Drawn by hand, annotated in 4 languages, marked with tiny inked glyphs that only make sense once you squint at them sideways. It's a chart of forgotten currents, hidden coves, old smugglers' trails. More importantly, it includes something none of your other maps ever did. Routes known only to women. Margot pores over it like it's a love letter. "You know how long I've tried to find this one?" she murmurs, tracing a pale route labeled Mira's Luck with a fingertip. "Decades," Fina guesses. Margot squints. "Days," but the point stands. Even Barrick seems different now. Less gruff, more thoughtful. He started muttering things like contingency ports and fewer ports with gunfire, which is practically sentimental coming from him. You, meanwhile, return to routine. Knots, sails, sunburn. But something's shifted. You don't flinch when someone shouts your name. You don't shrink in shadows. You belong now. Fully. Completely. The crew knows it too. Even Deke has stopped watching you sideways. He hasn't apologized, but he handed you a mug of tea this morning without growling. That's about as close to a peace treaty as you're going to get. Historians still argue whether the pirate codes of conduct, those written rules of fairness, loot division, and behavior, extended to gender. Officially, most say no. But unofficially, in spaces like yours, like the Cove, the unspoken code is simple. Don't endanger the ship, and don't be an ass. It's shockingly progressive when you're used to sit down and marry this potato-faced baron. Several days pass in peace. Your crew takes on small jobs, moving cargo, guarding docks that don't really need guarding. The money's light, but the wind is good, and the work doesn't involve fire. So, wins all around. Then, one morning, you wake to find a letter tucked under your blanket. No name, no seal, just a single sheet of paper with very careful handwriting. "I heard where you went. I know what you are. I won't chase you, but others will. Be smart, little bird. Keep the wind in your favor. You reread it twice. It's not threatening, not directly. But someone knows, someone from before. Margot reads it over your shoulder and mutters, "Well, that's subtle." Fina flips it over. "Ink's fresh. Written this week, not a copy." You wonder how it got there. No one new has been on board. No one's been left behind. Unless you think of the woman in the cove who embroidered names into her shawl. You think of the Countess, who always seemed to know more than she should. You think of Marin's phrase, "The sea keeps its secrets." You crumple the letter and toss it into the waves. Let the tide deal with it. But you do tighten the straps on your boots, just in case. The next port is an easy one. Isle of Menra, known mostly for its fish stew and slightly cursed pottery. Your job is simple. Offload barrels, pick up rope, avoid the man selling healing slugs. You've just finished tying down a new coil when you spot someone across the market. A woman, dressed in traveling leathers, standing still in a sea of motion, watching you. You don't recognize her, but she clearly recognizes you. You move, not run, just walk. Fast, purposeful. You duck behind crates, slip past a fishmonger, round a corner. But when you stop, she's already there. "Jack," she says. Calm, polite. You narrow your eyes. "Do I know you?" "No," she replies, "but I know who you were." You don't reply. You don't blink. She steps forward. "I'm not here to take you back. I just came to see for myself." You say nothing. Then, "Why?" She shrugs. Curiosity, admiration, envy, maybe. Doesn't matter. You wait. She holds something out. A small velvet pouch. Inside a pendant. Silver. Your old house sigil, melted and flattened. "I figured you might want closure," she says. You take it slowly, heavy in your palm. She walks away without another word. You return to the ship, toss the melted pendant into the forge's scrap bin, and never speak of it again. That night, you lie on deck under stars that shimmer like polished brass. Margot joins you, a stolen plum in each hand. Fina brings wine. "You all right?" Margot asks. You nod. "I am now." Fina clinks your cups. "To new names." You smile. "To no names at all." The ship rocks gently, sails folded like tired wings. In the distance, lightning flickers, but far away. Just enough to remind you that danger exists. Just enough to make safety sweeter. You close your eyes. Tomorrow you'll sail east. But tonight you rest. Dawn comes with gulls, their cries slicing through the warm haze of sleep like impatient letters from the sky. You roll over on the deck, blink against the light, and stretch. Your back protests, but not in anger. More like a reminder that this body, this ship, this life, is fully yours now. Hard-earned and harder kept. The crew is already stirring. Fina hums a tune that's either ancient or made up. Margot sits at the helm, legs crossed, sharpening a knife with a look that says she's at peace with whatever the day might throw at her. You smile. Even the goat seems calm this morning. Suspicious, but calm. Then comes the knock. It's on the side of the hull. 3 short thuds. Not a usual noise. Not the tide. Not the dock. You and Fina exchange a glance. Margot's already moving. You follow her to the railing, lean over. A small boat. Empty. Just bumping against your side. Tied with red twine. In it, a wrapped bundle, resting perfectly still. The crew gathers fast. Barrick growls. "If that's a baby, I'm quitting." It's not. It's a chest, about the size of a large book, sealed in oilskin, stamped with a sigil you saw once in the cove. A sword and bird intertwined, marked over with ink like someone tried to hide it, then thought better of it. Margot unties the twine, opens the chest. Inside, a map, hand-drawn. New. Annotated in what you instantly recognize as the Countess's handwriting. A trail through scattered isles you've never seen. Notes beside each one. Old anchorage. Beware storm current. Shelter here if needed. At the bottom, a short message. Some things you outrun, Some you outride. This is for when you must vanish. Ertorisi. Fina whistles low. She's giving us a ghost route. Margot traces it slowly. She's giving us an exit strategy. You don't say anything, but your heart beats harder. You've spent your life running from things. Family names, wedding rings, suspicion. Now someone has given you a roadmap for disappearing not just from danger, but from history. That afternoon, you and Margot sit in the hold, tracing the map again by lantern light. These are smugglers' passages, she mutters, and old cove paths, mixed with, wait, this is a weather route, tied to the moon cycle. Who even knows this stuff anymore? You don't answer. You're looking at the margin where someone, maybe the Countess, maybe someone before her, has sketched tiny symbols. Waves, eyes, a woman's face half hidden in curls. You wonder how long this map has been evolving, passed from one runner to another. Historians still argue whether pirate communities had networks like this, scattered safe paths known only to those who needed them. Some insist it's romantic nonsense, but others whisper about women who vanished from courts and convents, reappearing in merchant ledgers decades later as M. West, Captain Lyra, or simply Jack. You fold the map carefully and tuck it inside a waterproof pouch tied to your belt, not because you'll use it today, but because it's good to know you can. The ship sets sail again, gliding into late afternoon sun like a knife through honey. You and Fina climb the rigging to check the lines. Midway up, she stops. Would you go back? She asks, if you could do it over. You don't answer right away. Below, the ship rolls steady. Above, the sky is cloudless, careless. No, you say at last. But I'd have left sooner. She grins. Same. Later that night, Margot finds you sitting beside the goat, who is now wearing a necklace made of corks. She offers you a flask and a question. What if we did it for real? You frown. Do what? Start our own ship, not barracks. Ours, us three, a new name, new flag. Use the map. You blink. You serious? She nods. Why not? We've got the skills. We've got the tools. We've got Fina, who can probably kill someone with a spoon. Fina, lounging nearby, lifts a spoon and nods solemnly. You laugh, but it sticks with you. Later still, alone on deck, you stare at the stars. They're smeared across the sky like spilled ink. You pull the map out again, just to feel it in your hands. A ship of your own. No captains shouting. No secrets you have to bury. Just freedom. Chosen daily. Quietly. Deliberately. You think back to your first day. Muddy wedding shoes, a stolen pastry. The veil sinking like a ghost into the river. And you smile. It turns out running away was just the first voyage. The plan takes shape over stolen apples and scratched wood. It's not formal. No drawn-out meetings or dramatic toasts. Just a quiet agreement that hums under every conversation between you, Margot, and Fina, like the rhythm of the tide. The idea of your own ship, your own name, your own story. It settles into your bones like something you were always supposed to carry. Barrick doesn't ask questions. Maybe he knows. Maybe he always knew. But one morning, as he's spitting into the sea and mumbling about sails, he hands you a folded scrap of parchment. Map of older trade ports, he says. Ones that don't ask questions. You take it, stunned. Why give this to me? He squints at you, then mutters, because you're not lost anymore. You're just not staying. He walks off before you can respond. You think he'd be terrible at goodbyes. So you prepare. You start collecting spare rigging, sealing barrels, trading coins for extra sails. You don't rush. This isn't a theft. It's an inheritance. Quiet and slow and steady, like you've finally learned the rhythm of freedom. Fina finds an old sloop for sale on a dock in Brianda. It's small, battered, and tilting slightly to the left. But it's yours. You fix the keel, reinforce the mast, repaint the hull. You name her the Unwritten. Because no one's writing our endings for us anymore. Margot explains, painting the letters in soft gold. The day you leave Barrick's ship, the sky is a soft blue that smells like clean sails and change. No fanfare. No cannon salute. Just a wave from Gorin, who hands you a jar of pickled onions and mutters something about emotional goats. Even the goat seems to know, giving you one last stink-eyed glance of judgment before turning away. You raise the anchor, and just like that, you're sailing on your own. The Unwritten is fast, skittish, and deeply opinionated. She creaks like she's got things to say, but she sails like she wants to run. You learn her moods, you patch her flaws, you start to trust her. The first few weeks are quiet. You take small jobs, move goods, pick up rumors like seashells, and always, always follow the ghost map. You don't talk about where you're going. You just follow the stars, the wind, and each other. At night, you lie under the open sky, listening to the sea whisper secrets against the hull. Sometimes you sing. Sometimes you don't. And slowly, people start to find you. A girl with burned fingers from a runaway kitchen fire. A widow who faked her death with a fake drowning. A sailor who never felt right in his skin until he wore another name. They join you, tentatively, quietly, and you make room. No questions, no oaths, just hands on ropes, shared bread, and long nights of watching the horizon unfold. It's not all easy. There are storms, squalls that rip sails, high waves that test your stomach and your spine. There are days when the wind disappears entirely, leaving you adrift in a blue so wide, it starts to feel like time forgot you. But you survive them, because you are the captain now, not by rank or title, but by truth. And truth, as it turns out, sails better than lies ever did. One night, after a long, silent haul, Fina stands at the bow and whispers, "I think we're becoming a story." Margot from the helm replies, "No, we're just undoing the old ones." And you, standing between them, hand resting on your compass tattoo, say nothing, because you are becoming a story. One that won't be written in court records or holy books. One told in driftwood and ink, in scars and songs. You are the woman who ran from marriage and became a myth. The girl who sank her veil and sailed instead. And even if no historian ever records it, no museum ever labels it, your story will last. Because you lived it, and others will too. Because now they have a map. The sea is calm tonight. The stars are steady, the kind that don't blink but simply glow, like soft thoughts left drifting over water. Your ship rocks gently, the boards warm beneath your hands. Somewhere below deck, someone is singing, a low lullaby with no words, just sound. Maybe it's Margot. Maybe it's someone new. Maybe it's you, echoing forward through time. The sails are folded, the lanterns are low. The wind has tucked itself in for the night, and you feel it. The quiet you've chased for so long finally curling up beside you like a sleepy animal. Loyal and soft. You don't need to run now. Not from names, not from vows, not from who you were before. You're not the girl in the dress anymore. You're not the bride with the braided hair and the too tight smile. You're the captain of the Unwritten. You write yourself daily, slowly, kindly. Let that carry you now as your breathing slows and your thoughts settle like the last stars fading into morning. You've earned this silence. You've earned this sleep. Let the waves hold you. Let the story go for now. There's nothing left to flee. Just drift. Just rest. Just be.